all figuring out tech. I'm here with just an amazing woman that I'm so thrilled to introduce to you, Maria Quiban, who I met while I was doing some news here while we were talking about grief. I think grief in the holidays at one point.
That's
So
right.
I'm going to give everyone just a chance to come on, and then we'll sort of have a formal introduction. But when you come on, would you just say hello? People are going to be joining us and saying hello here in a moment. All right. Oh, and we're live and both people can be seen. Great. Good, good, good. So when you come on, I just want to give people a chance to say hello and find their way. Could you get that on for me? All right. Say hello, if you would. Someone say hello. I don't have a phone yet to see it yet. Let's see here.
Oh, do you see it on the right-hand
I
side?
do. I see it
Oh, you
now.
do. Oh,
I don't
okay.
see names, but here I go. We have Mimsy from California. I joke, Maria, you may be too young to remember this. You are too young. There was a show called Romper Room when I was growing up.
Definitely too young.
Right,
No,
right.
I'm just kidding.
And
I
the person would go, the teacher would go, okay, I see this person and this person. So let's see. I see Anna from Abigail from California. Anna can see both of us now. Great.
Yay.
So Sandy's here. Let's see. Eric is here from Palo Alto. Mary's here from Old Nathan, New York. British Columbia is in the house with Janice. Great. All right. Hey, Mimsy from California. We're going to just give people some time to get on. Someone as far away as Encino, California.
Oh, so far.
So far, because we're both here in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Michigan. All right, the Bay Area. Good, good, good. I'll give people just a chance to find us, especially since we had a little false start there. And I will actually try to erase our old one. That'll be confusing.
Oh, you can do that?
I think I can do that. Actually, if you could find the old one and erase it, that'd be great. All right, let's go here and see who else is coming on. Hey, Daniel from Illinois. I think it's Angel from New York, Maggie from Jamestown, New York. It's often hard to find these live ones, Maria, so I like to give people lots of time to find it.
No, that makes sense. I shared it on my Facebook and Instagram, so yeah, maybe they're
probably have some people might be wanting to come in. Let me make sure.
okay. Is it open a group or no? Is it
It is a closed group that we will let them in if we see them in. So hang on.
Okay.
I'll just make sure they get in. All right, I'm approving everyone. Now I'm multitasking on a computer, which is scary.
Wow.
For everyone to get in. All right. So one of the things that I do for those of you who are new, this is a group that's a pop-up group that I started because so many people in the pandemic suddenly don't have a grief group to go to. Their counselor might not be doing telehealth. So I wanted a place for people to go. And we have close to 5,000 people now. They'll see it in the replay. A lot of people watch this in the replay. On the East Coast, it's pretty late. But here, luckily, it's early for us. No, it's 8 p.m. on the East Coast.
It's early for them. They don't have dinner till 11.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's when they were going to shows. I'm afraid those days are over. So one of the things is, if you could get it up for me, that'd be great on here. So I'm just trying to get it where I can see the comments. All right, let's see. Deborah's here in the Valley, NoHo. Indiana, Regina, Lisa from Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Sharon from New Jersey. Oh, good, good, good. Perfect. All right, great. So we have a guest tonight. And like every evening, we try to have a guest. And then every day at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I do a check-in. So tonight, we're going to talk about, Maria's going to share her story. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have Heidi Horsley. Many of you know her. She is a counselor at Columbia who's going to talk about sibling loss.
Mm.
And tonight we're really talking about the death of a spouse. And I'm so sorry that you now know about that and that you've lived through that, right?
I have, yes. It's been over 4 years now, almost 5 years. And it feels like 5 weeks ago sometimes just 5 months.
Right.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
wild.
And I'm glad you're here and willing to share your story. And I hope you know you're going to heal lots of hearts and connect with lots of people. So the first thing I like to do is, we're all here because someone we love has died. And so I very much would like this idea that we all take a moment to just connect with that person, to just close our eyes and send them love wherever they are. I believe those who have died we still love them, and I think they still love us. So if you would take a moment to please just close your eyes and connect with them. Thank you so much. So, Maria, would you just share about your loving husband and what happened, just so we have an idea of the challenges you've been through in this?
Um, my wonderful husband, his name is Sean, and he always likes to say that it's spelled the right way. Sean, Sean, my ever so Irish German late husband. So our son Gus is a mix. He's chop suey. My husband Sean was an amazing person. He was my best friend, and it took me a long time to find him. And so by the time we found each other, I was already in my late 30s, divorced, and we got married and had a baby. I was 42. And when our baby was 3 years old, we decided to go on this Paris vacation that we had never been on, this crazy, large, long vacation. And so we decided to go. My parents came and watched our 3-year-old. We thought it was safe enough to leave him for 2 weeks. And while we were on vacation, I noticed some very strange things about my husband. And he was acting very oddly and was forgetting everything. And every day we were in Paris, he was behaving more and more unlike himself. And so at some point, I started crying because I didn't know what was going on. And I made him promise to see a doctor as soon as we got back. And he did. And after 2 weeks of being back, we realized he was suffering from brain tumors. And he got an MRI and he was diagnosed with glioblastoma. It is the most aggressive form of brain cancer. It's a primary cancer, and it was inoperable. And he was given anywhere from 3 months to live at that time to 14 months, depending on what kind of treatments were available to him. And we had him for 18 months exactly from the date of diagnosis, and he died December 28th, 2015.
I just think about the heartbreak from, did you have a sense of like, this is just not him? Did you have a sense something was wrong?
I did. We all work so much, don't we? We had been both so busy. He was a writer and he was working on a new show. I work on the news, and we have a 3-year-old. And so we were running around like crazy, and he was behaving oddly the year before. And I did notice some odd behavior, and I just chalked it up to his new job. He was turning 50. So everything was justified. And, but now learning what I learned about brain cancer, it grows, and then it grows exponentially. So your symptoms, which can be really mild in the beginning, by the time you notice something is really wrong, it's often too late, meaning it's really grown to the point of where it's growing so fast and you have very little time left once you realize what's going on and you're diagnosed. And so that was when I knew something was wrong, and he knew too, but we never dreamt it would have been brain cancer. I never even heard of the letters GBM or glioblastoma. And it really set us on a tailspin. And we were in crisis mode from that moment. And yeah, 18 months. We did pack a lot in there when we realized what was happening. And, we went through the different stages of anger and disbelief. And then we mobilized as a family and also our extended family. And we always had hope for a cure or something that would keep him here longer with us. But we were also very cognizant and very realistic about the statistics, and time was not on our side. And so we did the most that we could during that time, and made a lot of memories. And my son, Gus, turned 5 years old, and 2 weeks later, Sean died.
I purposely asked about something because a lot of people I work with are so haunted by, if only I had picked up the signals, if only I had said, you go to the doctor. And I tell them, even when we get signals, even when we realize something's wrong, even when we say, go to the doctor right away, our loved one sometimes still dies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality, that despite everything, there's some things we can't prevent. And it's just that reality. And I think for people who didn't maybe say go to the doctor, they think, oh, if only I would have, everything would have been fine. And the reality is a lot of times it's not fine. So tell us, first of all, so, for your child, for you, for your whole family, heartbreaking. And you have, you're amongst friends here. Many people have had a spouse who have died who are here, and everyone who's here has had a death. Tell me this. Talk about what that aftermath was like. What was that grief like for you? How did you deal with it? How did you and your son deal with it?
Well, first of all, we're still dealing with it.
Of course. Such a good point. Thank you. Because I don't seem like, because you know how I feel. Yeah. Everyone knows my beliefs that, like, when people say, how long's your loved one going to be? How long am I going to grieve? I always say, well, how long are they going to be dead?
I know. And I love that quote from you. And I've actually used that a couple of times, and because it's so true. Right. And I
know your grief is not in the past tense, but how did you, in those first few months, deal with it? I guess would be the better way to.
Those first few months, honestly, I felt like I was kind of in a fog and in a daze. And it was very painful to wake up every morning and realize that he wasn't going to be there. And I had to balance that with also being a good mother and a good role model and example for our young son. So while I wanted to curl up under the covers and really just do nothing but think of Sean and cry myself to sleep every night, I had to think about Gus. So in a way, in many ways, I'm so grateful for our son, because he really does keep me going, and he brings so much joy to my heart. But it was excruciatingly painful. That being said, after the 1 year mark, I had this expectation of, okay, here comes the 1 year mark. I'm going to be better, and it's going to be, easier, isn't it? And I remember the 1 year and 1 day anniversary, and I woke up and I thought, this is horrible. I feel worse. This is worse. And I feel like that whole second year felt even worse than the first year. If you can, I'm sure many of you can relate and understand. And I remember physically being ill, physically just not being able to get over numerous things. And so, yeah, I think the only difference now between that first and second year is that I'm recognizing the triggers that bring on that excruciating pain, and I just recognize it now. And of course, we have family therapy and we have family counseling always from even before Sean died, and she has been such an amazing resource for me and my son, that now we just learn to recognize what these feelings are and acknowledge them. As you've always said, David, acknowledge it. And, they pass, I guess, in a way, but at least I recognize them now and know what they are.
Right. And I often say the triggers are where the pain lives. It's also where the healing resides. And so it's tough to sort of become aware of those triggers because it is about our pain. What would you say is something that just wasn't helpful to you? And what was something that was just so helpful to you?
What was so helpful for me, well, counseling, definitely. I don't know how I could have gone through the years, that year and a half, I guess, leading up to Sean's death, through his treatments and all of that. We needed that, not just for me and my heart and my mind, but our young son, and what to say to him. After his death, for sure, counseling, family and friends were so helpful and continue to be so helpful. Without my family and friends, I just know that this would be so much more difficult. Another very helpful thing for me was the support group that I found at UCLA. We were treated at the UCLA Medical Center, and I found a support group that was primarily for caregivers of brain cancer loved ones and patients. And it was through this support group that I met some amazing people. And to this day, we still get together every 2 to 3 months. And while our conversations in the beginning were often about our spouses and the trials and the pain and the hurt, now we can honestly say that we talk about the future so much more. We talk about our careers, we still talk about the pain and the hurt. That's still there. That's never going to go away. But I think they're just such light lampposts for me. And without them, I just know that I would have a more difficult time.
I think about that year mark that you mentioned, how we do have expectations from society that like something magic happens at the year. And then just like you said, the year and the day, you're like, all right, everything's still the same.
Yeah, I'm waking up going, okay, it's still so heavy here on my shoulders, and yeah, so the same.
I want to dig into something that I think really challenges people. And I'll use the context of a year. I remember speaking with someone years ago who said, she said, in my day, in my parents' day, you would wear black for a year.
Yes.
And she said everyone knew who was grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And she said also, at the end of the year, you didn't have to take your black off. You could wear it longer. However, when you took your black off, there was an acknowledgement that it was by society and you that it was okay to begin to love and live again and be happy again. I think about one of the downsides is we don't have any moments to know when it's okay to begin living again. And like you said, that naturally even happened with your support group, that your conversations always held your spouses and your loved ones, but somehow you got permission to actually think about life going on. And I think that's very challenging for people. You and I are in situations. I don't know if you've ever gotten this, Maria. I've gotten emails from people mad that I was smiling. Like, you've been in grief. Your son has died. You should never be smiling again.
Oh, wow.
And I had to stop and go, they don't know my son. My son would never want to have taken my smile away.
No.
How did you navigate that grieving fully and living fully?
Um, I have to be, first of all, I'm so grateful and thankful that I did not get those kinds of comments on my social media. And I can remember maybe a couple, but it wasn't about not smiling or anything. I don't know. Or if I have, or if I did, I blocked it out.
Good for
um,
you. Good for you.
I think I must have blocked it out.
None of our business. For the person grief, I always say what other people think about your grief isn't your business. Your business is just to attend to your own grief.
Yeah, I guess for me, if I do get a lot of negative comments, a lot of it is very superficial, and I have learned to ignore them just because I don't know where people are in their lives, and so whatever is happening in their own lives led them to make those kinds of comments that were perhaps hurtful. So I don't really give those any credence. But how did I navigate that? You said it. The gift that we had was that, and I'm eternally so grateful for that, is that we had 18 months together, Sean and I, before he died. And we had so many long talks about how life was going to go on for me and Gus. And he constantly not constantly, but he did many times say, I want you to be happy. I want you to continue to uh, pursue happiness and love. And he even said, I want you to share the rest of your life with someone else, which was absolutely inappropriate for me to talk about, particularly at that time. And I made him promise not to say it again, but he did bring it up a couple more times. So I know that he would never want us to be unhappy or less than smiley or happy. So I never felt guilty about enjoying life. It was just difficult too because I kept thinking about how much we missed him and how we were going through these different milestones and markers in our lives, especially with our young son. And I just would think, oh, he's not here to see this, or oh, he's not here to experience this amazing moment. And so that would always get me so sad. Today, not as much, because I try to focus on the joy. I try to focus on Gus, and I know that Sean is here. I feel him always. So I know that he would want us to be happy.
So we have some questions and comments. Let's see. A lot of people can identify. There's a lot of people who are sharing, unfortunately, that they are so early on. A lot of people are resonating with you. Hi, Katrina says, I'm from Australia, young widow and solo parent of 2 boys, 15 months. She says, oh my gosh, this could be my story. Thank you for sharing.
I'm so sorry. My condolences. So hard.
It is. Stephen says it's been 5 months and it's not any better, and I feel lost and I feel like my life is over. Thank God for my kids and my grandkids. I have a happy life, just can't move on because she was my everything. I wish I could, but I can't. The one thing I would say, and I'd be curious your take, so many people, and let me just do a few more. It's 14 months, and I agree. So far, this is worse. Um, someone else says it's 6 months. It hurts so bad. When we're talking about 5, 6 months, a year,
Mhm. 2 years.
it hurts so bad. They're just, I tell people I have no fix for that. The pain is part of the love.
It comes for me, particularly now, it was really hard. Just this past week, being quarantined in the house. I don't know if you can relate to this around the country and around the world, but my support system of my friends and my family, I don't get to see them now. Part of my own therapy is being around friends and family, going out and experiencing new things every day. But now that we are having to be home 24/7, it's making me, how do you, I don't know, maybe it's just that, but I'm feeling extra sad, extra lonely, if you will. And other than having my son here, thank God he's here and I get to cuddle up with him, and I get to hug him when he's asleep because he's 9 and he doesn't really, get off, mommy. But I do get to at least hold him and I have someone, but this time right now is particularly difficult. And the only thing I can say to anyone else is that I feel it. So I, you're not alone. We're in this together. I feel the same. And I try to have more FaceTime meetups with friends and family, and that helps a little bit. And I try to stay busy. And so I've cleaned out the closet and I'm looking for other things to do. But yeah, I'm just acknowledging it, David. You say it. It's like I acknowledge it. I'm acknowledging the pain and I cry it out in the shower like I always have, and I always feel better afterwards. And it's cathartic.
And the reality is, none of us sit with our feelings. I mean, in grief, in that first year, in those first months, you are forced to sit with your feelings. Then
Mhm.
we go out. It's not that it doesn't hurt less. We're just having to go to work. We're having to take care of our kids. And then I think all of the world, you're suddenly in lockdown and you're in a house or an apartment with nothing but your feelings. No wonder it's hard. You
I
know,
know.
the pain
Hmm.
is there, the missing the person is there. I mean,
Yes, and the even just the house itself, there's so many more reminders that I'm faced with all the time. Um, Fortunately, I was able to remodel our bedroom recently. And so it isn't as emotional for me because I've created a nice little it's new-ish, this little haven for myself. And so that helps. That helps a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is really for now. I just have to just hang in there. We just all have to kind of hang in there and just reach out more virtually to our friends and family and our counselors.
and one of the things that someone said in the chat that I think is so true, they were talking about thanking you for helping. That I think
Oh.
I call them elders, that, not elders as an age, but the people who have gone through grief before us. And when you're in a group, like for some of these people who are 5 months and 5 weeks and who are so newly bereaved, seeing you talking about honoring your husband, honoring his life, and trying to live, acknowledging the good, acknowledging the bad, I think gives us hope.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. I
So,
think that's what I appreciate about my support group too, because they have been at their spouses died before mine, and so they really are lampposts for me. And Yeah, they're able to provide me with the kind of experience and knowledge to say, oh, oh yeah, I recognize that. Oh, I remember that. And thank you for that.
And I also think that, we continue to love that person. They hold a space in our heart forever. I often talk about, I remember my mother died almost 50 years ago. My gosh, I still feel connected. I still miss her. I think people, one of the things that I talk about is that our grief doesn't get smaller. We have to get bigger. Our
Mm.
lives have to get bigger. We have to grow around it. So let me get to the trickiest question at all. And I feel like it's a question that is always the challenging one. People sometimes even hate that it gets asked, but just because it's coming up. Jennifer asks, when is it okay to move on with someone new?
Mm.
Others seem to
Mm.
have ideas on this.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I took off my wedding ring finally after 2 years. It was a little over 2 years was when I finally took it off. Part of the reason why I took it off is that whenever I'd see someone that I hadn't seen in a long time, maybe an acquaintance or somebody would say, "Did you get married again? What's happening? I didn't know you got married again."
Mm,
And so, yeah, it was a strange sensation to be asked that, or even just people saying, "Oh, you're married," da, 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 and then having to explain and find the right words to say. After a while, I did realize it was probably going to be easier if I removed it. Also, a couple of really, really good friends thought it was time to remove it. And so at their urging, um, I tried it. They said, why don't you just audition it and just try to remove that ring? And so I did. And it was a very strange feeling at first, but like anything, after a while, you kind of get used to the lightness of it not, that ring not being there. Now, that being said, I do have my rings. I don't know if you can hear it jingling. I do have my husband's ring on my bracelet always, and my ring, it just fits snugly in it. So I always have it. And when I feel particularly anxious or nervous on any given day, I'll just kind of slip my fingers in there, and it always it makes me feel really good. And now it's just a pretty little, uh, you know, uh, dangle on my bracelet. As far as moving on and
and by the
dating,
way, I know that wording is a trigger for some people. I don't believe we move on. I think we move forward. But
we move forward. Yes, yes, that's true. Again, I refer to my support group because they're so funny. There's six of them that I really got so close to. And it's a funny story because one of the women in my support group, there's one guy actually, Otto. So there's one woman who was married for 40 something years. When and nothing is off limits when we have our get-togethers and conversations. That's the beauty of being part of a support group too, is that there's no judgment, right? So we could talk about anything. And so when the subject of that came up, we said, Linda, oh, well, how about you? And she goes, oh, no, no, no. I was married for a long time. I don't need, no, I enjoy my alone time. I'm so happy, blah, blah, blah. So then I think 6 months later we got together, and she was glowing. I remember this actually. And then she said, so I have some news to share, blah, blah, blah. And we said, oh, okay, what's up? Is it the grandchildren or what's going on? And she said, a really good friend of mine, we grew up together. He was my neighbor across the street. We've been friends for a long time. Well, we're together. So, and it just, I guess, happened really organically. And she just had this lightness about her, and she wasn't seeking it out. It just happened naturally. And so I kind of um, use that as sort of an example of like, I think you don't really necessarily say, okay, I'm ready and I'm going to go out there and do it. I think it can happen organically. And I'm hoping that that's how it happens for me. And my friends have set me up on a couple of dates, you know, And it was weird. It was definitely a weird thing to do, but I'm getting more and more used to the idea. And like anything, the more you do, the more you get back on that bike, the easier it gets to ride, I suppose. Um, yeah, so I'm not closed to the idea.
So I'm going to read another one. I don't know how long it's been since this person has had their spouse die. Um, not that time matters. It just sometimes gives me an idea of,
Sure.
are they at 6 months or are they at 6 years or 10 years? But I want to address this and then I'd love you to say something. This person says, I can't bring myself to remove my wedding band. Not interested in dating would be unfair to that person. So
Mm.
here's what I want to say, and then I want to know what you want to say to this is we all think and need to recognize there's an unconscious belief we have that to live again is disloyal to the person who died.
Mhm.
And I also want to point out, Maria, I believe you know this, but anyone else who's had the death of a spouse, you completed your vows. You completed your agreements. You are not being disloyal or cheating by living or loving again. And I think we got to take that in because I don't think, many people talk about if the role was reversed, would you have wanted your loved one to be unhappy for the rest of their life as loyalty to you? I don't know that that's loyalty. Maria,
Yeah.
what do you think about all that?
No, I agree with you 100%. And am I guilty of feeling that way? Was I guilty of feeling guilty about maybe sitting down in front of a stranger that first time that I went on a lunch date? Um, I did. But you're right, David. And I know I heard this firsthand from my late husband, and he said, I want you to be happy. I want you to know that. And I
Right.
want you to go out there and share your life. And I got to tell you that I talk to him all the time. I talk to my husband all the time. And I've talked to him about this very subject. And you know what? If you do that, if you talk to your spouse and listen really hard and look for those signs, they will answer you. They'll let you know exactly how they feel. And I remember I had this talk with Sean, and that same day, I want to say, like later that day after I went to the cemetery, I got an email from somebody asking me out to dinner. And I thought, okay, well, there's my answer right there, that he's telling, because I told him at the cemetery, he said, you're gonna have to send someone to me. You're gonna have to send this person
Right.
because I'm not actively looking right now. But if you want me to do this, then you're gonna have to send someone. And so he did. Um, so that was my answer. And so I know in my heart that he wants me to be happy, and I shouldn't deprive myself of that. So you shouldn't either, whomever you are watching.
And
Um,
someone mentioned, they said, oh, your loss is still fresh. I can't see when I believe it was Stephen's loss was, but if someone says it's fresh, and I don't want to invalidate anyone's feelings. If that's the way you feel now, I understand it. But I want to invite you to this notion of because death is unfair, and I want you to hear this, everyone, because death is unfair, you do not have to be treated unfairly going forward. Isn't it bad enough they died?
yeah, yeah, I agree. Yes, we've got one life, and we should be able to have happiness all the way. And again, I mean, I'm how do you what's the best way of saying, like, I'm not actively seeking it out necessarily, but I'm definitely not closing myself off to it.
Right.
And I think just by doing that, by just saying, you know what, I'm not going to say no to it, I think I'm going to live freely. I don't limit yourself. I'm not limiting myself. But at the same time, if I don't ever meet anyone good enough, or I feel like I want to share my days with, not a big deal. I feel full and content in that sense, you know. So just always seeking joy. That's all.
And I say to people, when Sean died, a part of you died with him, and a part of him lives on in you. Can you name something about him that lives on in you?
So many. Um, Sean was one of the smartest people that I've ever met. He was so not, he was the least jealous person I ever met. He was so patient. And so I always try to think about how I can be more patient and be more like him in that sense.
Hmm.
He was funny. And I definitely don't sweat the small stuff. I think if anything, these last several years have taught me is to not sweat the small stuff. And when challenges face me now, they're not as bad. This whole COVID-19 thing and being here and being stuck in the house, yeah, I'm lonely,
Right.
but it's all perspective. And I just know that I'm also very full. I have had the greatest love, and I welcome another greatest love. I'm definitely not closing myself to that. And I, I've got Gus. He left me the most amazing thing. Um, his family, my Weitzel family, is incredible. And I have him to thank for my very large extended family and friends network. And I just want to make him proud, and I want to make them proud, and just keep going. Just keep going.
And I also think it's so important to understand that for those people, there's a couple of people who say they're not going to date again. By the way, this is for you to decide what works for you. I mean, there's no, you should do this, you should do that. Don't let anyone should on you.
Mm-hmm.
You decide what's right for you. You have to be, as you are, in charge of your own life. Someone asked, and I don't even know if Sean was cremated or buried. It says,
He was buried.
do you go to the cemetery a lot?
I do. I do actually. He was buried, and he's not very far away. So anytime that I want to go there, I literally can walk there. In fact, where he's buried was a beautiful little oasis in the city. And it was always part of our walks before he died. So going there is so natural for me and for our son Gus. So that's never going to stop. But that being said, like I told you earlier, he's always with us. I always feel him and see the signs. I do. I see the signs that he's near always. Part of the thing is to speak out loud to them. And somebody gave that advice to me. It was our priest, um, who said, "Do you ever talk out loud to Sean?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "No, no, no. I mean, like, really talk out loud to him." And so I do. And I'm sure some people may see me doing that and they must think I'm crazy. But then again, we live in LA and people are always talking on their Bluetooth. So people are always talking to themselves anyway. So, but I'm always talking to him. And honestly, I get the answers. He talks back.
That's lovely.
So yeah.
And this person goes on to say that other people think her going to the cemetery is not healthy. Oh, well. Oh, well. What they think is really, it's really none of your business. I mean,
I think whatever it is that you do, if it gets in the way of your regular life, like if it somehow limits you, then that's probably not a good idea. But I'm not going there every day for one. Definitely not. The first year, I have to say that I was there all the time. especially those first several months. I I almost went there every other day, to be honest, but that's because it's so close to the house. But I don't do that as much anymore. It has definitely waned. I don't go all the time now, but whatever it is that you do to feel closer to your loved one, that's that's great. Whatever that is, whether it's to go to the beach or go to that tree or go to that special spot where you would go all the time, um, that's okay. But just know that they're always with you. So if you can't get to that spot, you can always talk to them wherever you are.
Yeah, and I go to my son's grave, and it's interesting that sometimes people think of that as, like she said, as like a sign you might not be doing well. And
Mm.
it's I usually I talked about it more. Now I just go. I don't even say to people, "Oh, I went today" or something. It's like it's between me and my loved one.
Yeah, you're
So,
right. I don't even say when I do. It's really just for me, just part of my walk, you
right,
know?
right.
Yeah.
Kathy says it's been 22 years for her and she still feels her Sergio. I would, a connection is a connection. I don't think that, that goes away. And let's see a few other these. David, please scroll up and read my comment. Curious if you'd heard this before. All right, Tina, now you got me curious. What's your comment? Let me see if I can find it. You might need to write it again, but let me see, Tina. Oh, it must be way up. Hang on, I'm scrolling just because she says. Tina, oh, please read this. Okay, found it. I'm just shy of 8 months of losing my 45-year-old husband to brain.
Oh, to brain cancer.
Oh,
Oh,
I know I can live without him, and I don't want to. I feel like he was my love story, and I don't want to pretend for the rest of my life. I'm okay during this, and I feel like it's letting me live in a bubble with all his memories. First of all, it's 8 months. In grief time, 8 months is like yesterday.
you're so right. I remember, like I was saying earlier, I had these unrealistic feelings that after a year that things were going to be less painful or less devastating. And I got to say that second year was even harder. So I don't want to scare you um, about getting into the second year and you're going to feel worse. But it was almost more challenging for me and almost more painful because everyone else had gone on with their lives, I guess, to a degree. Like
Right.
my circle of family and friends sort of went on and they all went back to their routines and their lives and they didn't call quite as much as they had called. That was part of it. But part of it too was like, oh, here's that birthday again. Oh, here's that Christmas. Um, I would say it was only this past year, right before we remembered the 4th year anniversary of his passing, was really the first time that I felt not as paralyzed by it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That these markers in the year, whether it was Valentine's Day or the birthdays or our wedding anniversary, um, the wedding anniversary was still difficult this year, I have to admit, but they came, but it also left like those feelings of anxiety and pain. Like it came, I recognized it and I acknowledged it, and then I also it sort of like left almost, almost as quickly, if that makes any sense. And it will get easier to you get used to it. You get used to that pain, and it's a little easier, I guess, in that sense, because you recognize it.
I've heard it different ways. I've heard it doesn't hurt less, it hurts less often. I've also heard you learn to live with it.
Hmm.
So it is very different. And I think, we're so used to talking about being compassionate for other people. Grief is a time, especially those first 2 years, to have enormous compassion for yourself. That's why we're doing this every day, because this is so hard for people. And one of the secrets, I think, to dealing with grief is to authentically allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. If
Yes.
today is devastating and you're sad, be devastated and sad.
Yes.
If tomorrow morning it doesn't hurt as bad, then just don't let it hurt as bad and just feel okay.
Yeah.
It's to really be true to what you're doing. I'm so glad that you took the time to be on with us. We've got a lot of connections. You and I are connected because one, everyone at your station was so gracious and has had me on TV many times. We also I'm connected to your husband because his brother is with William Morris, which is actually my agent. And
Yes.
you're about to join another club. You're about to become an author.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Show
That's
us.
right.
So this is like amazing that you've done this. Let's see it.
Okay. So I do have a book that's coming out. It's called You Can't Do It Alone.
Great.
So it's coming out June 9th, and I'm hoping that. Can I back up for just 1 second? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned our connection, and I'll say this really quickly. When I say that I talk to my husband all the time and he gives me the answers, when the book was almost finished, I thought about all the people that I wanted to read my book, and David Kessler entered my mind. And I had not met you personally before that. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, he's represented by WME. Maybe I can get to him through my brother-in-law. But he was so busy, and so it never happened. And so I remember going up to the cemetery to talk to Sean, and I said, honey, you've got to get me in contact with David Kessler. He's the person that I need to talk to. I need to get some advice, and he knows about grief and loss and la 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 la. And I'm not kidding you. The next day I go to work and I'm sitting in the makeup chair, and I usually don't pay attention to the guest list ever. I don't, because I'm not usually involved with the guests and the interviews because I'm the morning meteorologist. And so I was sitting in the makeup room. I'll never forget this. And then in comes the producer and talked about the upcoming guest to the makeup artist. And he said, David was coming in, la 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 la, this and that. And I turned and I said, David, who? Because your name was so fresh in my mind. And he goes, oh yeah, it's a grief segment, la la la. And my eyes just got so big, and he said David Kessler, and I swear to you, my heart started pumping so fast, and I just knew that it was Sean making this happen, and there you were.
I remember you coming into the green
Yeah.
room. It was so sweet.
I said, oh my God, I can't believe you're here.
No idea. You have no idea. It was very, very sweet.
You have no idea. So my point is, please talk to your loved ones and they will answer you. And if you ask for David, he's going to come for some reason. He will be there.
I'm here with everyone, and everyone's here with me, and I'm so honored. One of the things, and it's crazy what's happening now with books. I don't know if you even know this, Maria.
I don't. First time writer.
First time writer. Right now, number one, Amazon is out of my books right now.
Oh,
And
wow.
Amazon right now is not ordering books because of the crisis.
Wow.
Because books are not considered essential, which I get that.
Mm-hmm.
What's hideous for me is that, and I've never said these words before, people are selling my book for like $40, tripling the price and gouging people.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
I'm like, don't buy my book right now.
Oh, okay.
Unless you get it on audio or a Kindle. But we can pre-order your book.
You can pre-order my book. And I have to say that I did not read your book before I finished this book. And then I read yours. And I feel so much better in that your book made so much sense to me. And I told you this after. The meaning part of death and grief and loss really resonates with me right now. And it's that meaning that's also helping me through this past year. And part of my meaning is writing our story. And I just hope, and even if we can touch just a few people with our story and brain cancer and trying to find a cure for glioblastoma and brain cancer, then I will have fulfilled my promise to not just myself, but to Sean, and hopefully can bring awareness to this disease for which there is no cure. And also hopefully let people know that, hey, I'm still here, we're still here, and you can do it too. You can get to here. If you're seeing us get here, you can do it too.
And tell us the name of the book again.
Oh, the book is You Can't Do It Alone. And I know what you're going to say. Some of you are saying, I don't have friends, I don't have family. That's not true. You can find your village. You can find people online. You can find your support group. This is one, and I congratulate you for finding it and finding us.
Absolutely. And is there a website people want to know more about you?
Oh, yes. You can go to my website. It's my first and middle name, mariaquiban.com.
Great.
So, yeah, click on.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. You are a gift to so many, and you're going to be an amazing gift with your book. So
thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing. All my love to you. We'll be talking soon. Everyone tuning in, thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Everyone who's tuning in, I just want to say I so appreciate you being here. Everything you're doing, peer support. I come in here in the evening with a guest many times. I'm in every day at 1 p.m. The other 23 hours, you are all supporting one another. And that just makes my heart sing. So thank you for being here. We're trying to make this group work really well for you. There's a poll to take a look at about how we can make this even better. And even in this time of physical distancing, we can still virtually connect, and we can virtually hold each other's hands. If you have a friend that's dealing with a death and they are isolated and alone, please tell them about this group. Thank you all so, so much. I so appreciate you. Maria's amazing. We'll see you soon. I'll actually see you tomorrow. Thank you.